Welcome to our lecture online. Now let's take a look and see how the Gauss's law works when we have a cylinder of charge, and in this case the cylinder is a conductor, so all the charge resides on the surface of the cylinder, which means that the electric field will emanate away from the cylinder, radially away from the cylinder, not through the sides, well actually to the sides, but again if we think of it as an infinite cylinder of charge, we ignore what happens at the ends, we only care about what happens on the side of the cylinder of charge. Since it's a conductor, we then realize that the electric field inside will be equal to 0 because there's no additional charge inside, all the charge is on the surface. So it only depends on being, the electric field can only have a value outside the cylinder of charge. If the charge is given to us as a linear charge density, we use the letter lambda, which is equal to a certain amount of charge per length, per unit length per meter. So in this case, as an example, 10 microcoulombs per meter. So we're going to try to find the electric field at a distance r away from the center of the cylinder. Now we have to always be careful. If the question asks from the surface of the cylinder, then we have to take that into account. We'll know the radius of the cylinder and then the distance from the surface to the point of interest, or the distance is expressed in terms of from the center of the cylinder. So they can give it to you both ways, and you have to, of course, take care of that. We use the same equation as always, that the magnitude of the electric field times the surface area of the Gaussian surface is equal to the charge inside divided by epsilon sub naught. So the magnitude of the electric field is equal to Q inside divided by the Gaussian surface area times epsilon sub naught. Okay, how do you express the charge inside? Well, notice that the Gaussian surface will be a cylinder of length L, and so all we have to do to find the charge inside is to multiply the linear charge density by the length of the portion of the cylinder that we're considering. So in this case, the length is L. So this becomes equal to, E is equal to the linear charge density times the length, and then the surface area of the Gaussian surface. Again, realizing that the electric field lines only emanate through the side of the Gaussian surface in both directions like this. We only have to worry about the size of the cylinder, not the end portion of the cylinder, because no electric field will go through that portion, not in the middle of the cylinder. So therefore, we can simply say that's going to be the circumference times the length, which is 2 pi r sub g times the length, and then times epsilon sub naught. So right away we can see that the L's cancel at the top and the bottom, so we don't worry about that. And so this can then be expressed that the electric field is equal to the linear charge density divided by 2 pi epsilon sub naught times r sub g. So you can see that all this is a constant, only 1 over r sub g is the variable, meaning the farther you go away, the weaker it becomes. It turns out that this is the exact same equations we got for a line charge. So if you have a cylinder of charge or a line charge, once you're outside that cylinder, it acts exactly as if it was a line charge, with all the charge right down at the center of the cylinder. So you get the exact same result. If you also take into account that 1 over 4 pi epsilon sub naught can be written as k from Coulomb's law, then you can say if you multiply both top and bottom by 2, you get 2 lambda divided by, this then becomes 4 pi epsilon sub naught times r sub g, and 1 over 4 pi epsilon sub naught can be written as k, so this can be written as 2k lambda divided by r sub g. Both equations are exactly the same, identical, and so this is how you find the electric field outside a cylinder of charge with all the charge residing at the surface. That's how it's done.